Hey guys, welcome to the daily analysis for today. It is Tuesday, February 5th, and it's getting pretty close to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here. And so I want to cover a few things today in the market. Obviously, talk about that euro gaining some strength back, the pound gaining that weakness back, some of the things reverting right back to how they were last week, and a couple of trade setups that I think could definitely develop here. The main thing that I'm looking at is this pound New Zealand and the short potential there. I kind of have a trade idea with the pound New Zealand and want to let you know what I'm thinking there and kind of just exactly what I'm expecting, what I'm anticipating, and the requirements for me to get short on the pound New Zealand, exactly what details or criteria that I'm looking for before taking short on the pound New Zealand. So that's what I'm going to cover in the analysis. Before we get into that, I just want to cover our news. There's a few important announcements to take a look at there, and then quickly cover our terms, and we'll jump back into these charts and take a look at the trade potential. Alright guys, and you can see our news for tomorrow. The New Zealand employment change and unemployment rate are really big announcements, especially for me as I'm looking at this pound New Zealand and the potential to make a trade there. So as far as that trade is concerned, I'm still deciding whether I want to definitely wait until this news comes out or if I'm willing to get in the trade ahead of time. Again, I'll talk a little bit more about that criteria, but this New Zealand employment information could really have a major effect on that trade. So that's something I'm paying close attention to tomorrow as it comes out, and then also the odd employment information as well. Those things typically go hand in hand, so definitely that information is important as well. And between those four red tagged, all of them employment type stuff, there could really be some nice moves in the market on that odd and New Zealand crosses. Whether you're trading New Zealand against the dollar or the pound New Zealand, the odd dollar, whatever it is. Those employment information announcements can really drive prices quite a way. So definitely want to pay attention to those, have those in the front of your mind tomorrow afternoon as those announcements come out. Alright guys, just want to quickly cover these terms, and really the main thing to understand here is that because of the government regulations in place with any kind of trading company like us, it's very important to understand that we're not registered by a broker or any kind of security advisor, any kind of regulatory authority. All we are is just a website, a standalone website that's designed to give you free information based on our personal opinions for your educational use. It's not to be taken as investment advice. So please do understand that. Again, the government's very strict about those regulations, and we want to be really clear on that aspect of things. All right, if you need to pause the video and read through those, please do so. I'm going to go ahead and move back into our charts. All right, guys. So again, this pound New Zealand is something I'm really interested in. A few things to note. Number one, there is definitely a lot of long-term bearishness in this trend. It's an extremely bearish trend overall. So because of that, I'm very biased toward the downside. Another great thing about shorting the pound New Zealand is that there's some really nice positive rollover. So if you hold the trade for a long time, you'll be making some rollover. That's not a huge reason to trade, but it is nice, as a bonus. Now, a couple things to note as far as this channel. We've been in a channel here for quite some time, the pound New Zealand. You can see there's been some potential breaks here and here and here that have not lasted, but finally we had a really nice break that has held up with some consistency and actually even gapped down to the lowest price ever on the pound New Zealand. So we had a good bounce yesterday to the upside, but then today kind of turned around and reverted this right back to the downside. And so what I'm looking for here, let me scroll up on this a little bit. Alright, so what I'm looking at is for price to get below this lowest point where it gapped down to, basically where price opened on Monday, and to show continued momentum through this area. In other words, if price gets down below 185, but it kind of just gradually floats below 185, I'm not going to be very inclined to jump on this trade because I'm not going to have a lot of confidence that the momentum is going to carry it to the next leg of this ultimate downtrend. What I want to see is continued impulsive movement to the downside as it breaks below 185. So I'm going to be keeping a very close eye on this. And actually, one thing I'll do is I will tweet it on Twitter if I decide to take the trade. So if you're interested in when and if I take the trade and what my stop loss and target's going to be and all that information, just follow me on Twitter and I'll alert you when I take the trade. If you don't follow me on Twitter, or if you don't have Twitter, it's not a big deal. I'll just update you in the next daily analysis if I did take the trade. But if you want to know in real time if I'm taking the trade, just make sure you follow me on Twitter. I have the link below the video, and I'll let everyone know. And then of course you can reply and ask more specific questions if you have any about the trade. But this is a trade I'm really excited about and interested in. And if that momentum continues, I think there's definite possibility that this thing could carry to a much lower price. That New Zealand unemployment news is something that could definitely affect it. Again, I haven't really decided if I'm going to wait for that news. Typically, I will not wait for the news. I tend to think that the news will confirm price action, but it's something that I have to think about. That New Zealand news is employment information, which is very big, very important. So still haven't completely decided on that. I want to make sure I have a good plan before entering the trade, not after entering the trade. So I'm going to think that through, make a decision, and then I'll be analyzing this trade. And again, I'll let you know if I go ahead and take it. All right, so that's the pound New Zealand. Went into pretty big detail there, so I'll try not to take so much time on the other pairs, but there's a few other things I definitely want to look at here in the markets today. All right, the euro dollar, another interesting pair. We had that strong reversal yesterday, pretty similar to that pound New Zealand reversing upward, and as of now, it does not look like it's going to sustain it all. Actually, a really nice inside bar right back to the upside off this little mini base here. So looking like it definitely wants to push toward higher prices. At the minimum, maybe retest this area. We could see one of those things where a channel develops before making its next leg upward or downward. This could be an area where price hangs around for a bit between 135, 137. Wouldn't be a surprising level. But it could very well just break right back up toward higher highs. This would be one, as far as the euro dollar is concerned, that I'd be tempted to jump back on long with a nice inside bar here. However, I'm already short on dollar. I'm short on the US dollar CAD, so a euro dollar long would double my risk on the US dollar. So I'm not interested in doing that. But if it wasn't for that USD CAD short that I already have, the euro dollar would be one that I'd be tempted to jump back on long, and so that's certainly something to think about. Some of you, I'm sure, are not convinced that this isn't just a stall bar before this actually does break down, and I'm really not convinced either. I'm not convinced that this, isn't just shaking some people out, doing a little bit of chop, and is ready to actually go lower, maybe even to retest this area. Have not made up my mind on that, though when you set up for a trend continuation potential, typically is a really nice risk reward, and it's tempting to jump on. Kind of like that odd yen situation. I wasn't super confident that odd yen was going to continue. I did catch it as it was pulling back, but I'm up really nicely on that trade now. Actually up a little over 400 pips on that odd yen trade. So it worked out nicely because I took a chance because there's a great trend developing. And so this is a situation pretty similar to that where, even if you're not confident 100% that this thing is really going right back up, you don't want to miss a good trend opportunity, and it's worth putting the risk on the trade in a lot of cases. And so that's something to think about in the euro dollar case. Now, the pound dollar is a very interesting pair to me. I am sure on the pound dollar as we speak. I got short actually about halfway through this bar, a little lower than halfway through this bar from Friday. Suffered as it moved up yesterday, but then showed nice continuation below the bottom here. So I like that the pound dollar is shaping downward. You can see that I have three red lines here, one there, and one there, and that kind of marks the three major points in this huge sideways market that we're in. I'm going to scroll back and show you exactly what those points look like from a little more data here. Alright, so this is the sideways market just for basically the last year and a half. And you can see this bottom level, how many times it's been tested on a long term here. The top level here more recently has been tested. And then this middle level has been tested quite a bit in here as well. So these are really, in my opinion, the three major levels in this big sideways market. And as you can see, price tends to move from one to another. Here it tested for a while. When it broke, it went all the way up to our top level. Here came down, didn't quite get there, came back up to our top level, now broke down to the middle level. Now you can probably, if you're not a rocket scientist, or even if you're not a rocket scientist I should say, guess that I'm thinking maybe we're going to head all the way back down to this level, and that's why I'm short on the pound. And if you assume that, well, then you would be right, because that's exactly what I'm thinking. I'm not making any bold predictions. This thing is definitely breaking all the way back down to that 152 area, and it's going to do it in the next week. But when the market's been pretty consistent in a sideways fashion, it's breaking through areas, I don't want to miss an opportunity to grab a trade, especially, I got in right around the break of this level. If my stop loss is going to be 130, 140 pips, and my potential target is going to be 450 pips, I don't want to miss that potential. So I jumped in on this trade, grabbed it as it was moving downward, and I'm looking to see if this thing can really carry all the way down to one of our major levels on the pound. I think it's very interesting that these 3 points have developed, and when you have very obvious levels like that, it's much easier to try to take advantage of the market when it's moving. So it's an area where I'm not really far from moving my stop into break even already and taking the risk off the table. I do have some really nice open equity on the odd yen as well, which has led me to be a little more aggressive on some other trade opportunities. The odd yen the open equity that I have on the odd yen is actually up a higher percentage than my monthly target. So because of that, I'm a little more aggressive with some of the other trade opportunities to try to turn a good month into an awesome month, because that's how I believe investors make a lot of money. I think that really the wealthiest investors in history, and I'm not there yet, but I think that they typically have a lot of mediocre months, some losing months, and some absolutely awesome months. And so that's really what I want to try to accomplish. I want to take an opportunity to make a good month where I'm just meeting my goals into a month that's going to turn the year of 2013 into a really great year, because of a few awesome months. And so that's just, you can take that or leave it, just my personal opinion. But that's what I'm trying to do, and I want to see if I can get some of these pairs to work for me like this. And the pound dollar is one that I think has some great potential there, and that I'm looking to take advantage of. So that's my short there. Um, in order for me to take that pound New Zealand short that I mentioned, I will have to lock the pound dollar into break even before doing that, because I don't want to double my risk on the pound short, unless one, the risk is totally off the table. If the risk is off the table and the pound's going to crash, then I might as well take double the profit with the same risk. And so that's my logic there. If you have any questions on exactly how what I'm talking about there, if that didn't make sense, just leave a comment. I'll explain exactly what I'm doing there. My point is that I don't want to double risk on a certain currency, just like I didn't want to take euro dollar long and USD CAD short. However, if the risk is off the table and I think that the USD is gaining strength, I might as well jump on another pair and see if I can kind of use a basket to double my profit, using the same currency strength or weakness. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Didn't plan on getting into all of that, but that's the plan with the pound dollar and the pound New Zealand that I mentioned already. All right, let me go ahead and show you that USD CAD while I'm talking about some of these trades. Okay, so this is the USD CAD. The reason I'm short here is because I saw some nice momentum moving downward. Broke back through the 101 level, showed some nice momentum, and I thought, okay, if the USD CAD is going to fall, I can have a nice target down here, maybe a little bit higher than that actually, down here. See if it can break back through some of these levels, come back to a base, and while I'm doing that, I can hedge my pound dollar. So the pound dollar was a nice continuation, but there's the potential that the pound could reverse at any time. So I wanted to give myself a little bit of a hedge of protection. So I shorted the USD CAD, shorted the pound dollar, and that way I'm long on dollar and short on dollar. What's nice in this situation is that I'm actually up on both trades. I'm short on dollar and long on dollar, but I'm actually up on both trades, which does not always happen, of course, but it's nice when it does. And so there's the potential that if you win both, you'll make a lot of money, but if you win one and you lose one, you'll still make money. And so that's a great position to be in. Again, doesn't always work like that, but this is an opportunity where so far it's looking pretty good. And I got short basically right in this range after this push bar close, and then continued slightly a little bit below that close of that blue pin bar there. So that's what I'm short on the USD CAD. Again, showed you what I'm short on the pound dollar. And so it's an opportunity, again, just trying to be a little more aggressive on my trade opportunities here, while still using some common sense things to protect my risk, like the hedge that I mentioned. And so, this level is certainly something that I'm looking at. If it stalls really badly here, I'll definitely, lock in my profit a little bit tighter. But what I'm hoping is that it breaks right through there and kind of heads down toward our next base, and continues with some of this nice momentum. Of course, again, if it bounces really strongly here, hopefully that means that USD gained a lot of strength, and the pound dollar will fall even steeper, and I'll hit my target on that. So again, I feel like I'm in a pretty nice win-win situation with the USD CAD short and the pound dollar short. Might be a little late for people to enter now, depending on your own personal analysis, but I really like the situation it's in, and think it's a pretty good opportunity as far as holding for some longer targets, while also continuing to hold that odd yen. And so really across the board, like my little basket that I'm working with at this point in time. Okay, so that's the USD CAD. Just waiting to see if we can get some continuation through 99, and if that US dollar is going to remain neutral, and the CAD will push it down, while the pound dollar, if the pound remains weak, and the US dollar is neutral in that pair, of course, too. So I'm liking what I got going here. We're waiting to see if some of these things can continue and hit some of those longer term targets. Okay, next we have the euro pound here. And you can see it's kind of funny. We had the super massive bar shooting higher, then the immediate massive rejection bar, and then the immediate massive continuation bar. So it's a little bit, it's funny because it's choppy, but it's also massive movement, which is typically not a combination you see a lot. We kind of have this little slanted base upward where price didn't quite break through. I wanted to see what would happen there, if that would actually hold it up at all. Kind of like a little mini bullish flag, even though prices moved down. A little bit of kind of a weird construction of how this euro pound moved up. But either way, moving higher, breaking right back through 86, heading toward 87 at the top here. And so what's interesting is that 87, even though it's not really a major resistance area when you look back at history, is the only thing that really stopped the euro pound dead in its tracks. So kind of a coincidence level there, but we'll see if price can break right back up through it. If it does, of course, I'm very bullish on the euro pound based on what we see here. It's hard not to be bullish, but euro dollar might have a little bit better opportunity for going long if you're thinking long euro. Either way, the euro seems to be right back on the strength wagon. I'm not convinced that this is not just an immediate fake back to the other side, and that's not going to break down lower. But at the same time, it's hard to assume that the euro is going to crash when you look at the recent history of how strong this euro has been. So I'm pretty open to either way right now. I like the situation where I'm trading pound, I'm trading dollar, I'm trading yen, and I'm waiting for that euro opportunity. Right now, not an actual any euro trades, but if something develops that doesn't really double my risk on any other currency, I certainly would be willing to take a euro long and see if the euro is going to continue toward much higher prices. I think that there's a lot more potential there left for it. So euro pound, pretty similar to euro dollar, looking to break right back up, and just waiting for a good signal to see if it breaks through these highs. Okay, and I'll finish up just by talking about this odd real quickly. You can see today's bar, pretty nice weakness in the odd that came all the way back down to test, then bounced right back, kind of halfway point in between these levels. So, nothing new here. The odd just really has not made a good decision on which way it wants to go. Thankfully, even though I'm long on the odd, I'm long on the odd yen, and the yen weakness is still carrying odd yen higher and higher, despite the lack of strength in the odd. What I was hoping is that the odd dollar would break up, and that would actually add some strength to the odd yen. The odd yen would be twice as high as it is for the day. But either way, we'll see if this odd can continue to make a move and try to struggle and eventually break through. If it does break higher, we have a nice target area here. So hopefully we'll get a move and look to take advantage of that. But right now, just that channeling that's not really deciding anything. So it's one that you continually have to be patient with these days, and that's exactly what we'll do. Hopefully we'll get a nice break here in the near future. Alright guys, that's it for the analysis. Thanks so much for watching. Again, any comments or questions or thoughts, please feel free to leave behind. And be sure to follow me on Twitter if you're interested in that Pound New Zealand trade and all the details on that. Alright guys, talk to you tomorrow. Have a great day.